Chris Paul's days in Phoenix appeared to be over. The Suns have reportedly informed the point guard that he will not be brought back next season. Let's keep in mind, Chris had a pretty unique back end to his contract. The last year wasn't guaranteed at all, and next season was partially guaranteed. Phoenix had until June 28th to fully guarantee Chris Paul's contract, and they opted not to. They're likely going to waive and stretch the $15 million that they will owe CP3 next year, and Chris can be claimed by any other team in the league. My expectation is it will come down to 3 teams for the services of Chris Paul. Number 1 and 2 will be the teams in Los Angeles. Obviously, Chris played with the Clippers before. They got a new coach. They obviously got new players. And then the Lakers, there's a LeBron connection. There's one other team that I would throw out there as a monkey wrench that I think Chris Paul will strongly consider, and that is the Boston Celtics, who, in my estimations, are just one floor general type of point guard away, a guy that can make big shots late in games as well. They're just one piece away. And to me, Chris Paul fits the description of that guy. And the dopest part about this for Chris is he really controls how his career ends. Think about it. Chris is going to make his $15 million with the Suns, whether they give it to him now or waive and stretch it out over years to come. He'll get that bread. What's more important to Chris for the foreseeable future? Is it about making another $15, $20 million to get back to the number that the Suns would have had to pay him if his contract was fully guaranteed? Or is it about playing for a winner? Because keep in mind, if Boston was going to make a trade for Chris Paul, they would have had to give up most likely Marcus Smart and a little bit more to work this trade out financially. Let's keep in mind, Boston's got to pay Jaylen Brown big-time money in an extension soon. And then obviously Jason Tatum's coming down the pipeline as well for another extension. That's probably $600 million with 2 guys right there. With Chris, if he wants to take a lot lower of a financial hit to the, to the Celtics salary cap, if he takes lower, they could keep Marcus Smart, which would create a very, very, very dangerous backcourt in which maybe Marcus starts a lot of these games, Chris closes these games, or depending on who's got the hot hand, or maybe you play a 2-point guard system in Chris and Marcus, in which Smart was really never a real true point to begin with. You could play small ball lineup with CP3, Marcus, Jaylen, Tatum, and then obviously Robert Williams at center. There's ways you could work that out. That works. That feels like it could work. It depends on what Chris wants out of the back end of his contract. For Chris, if he's going to do the Clippers thing again, I think it would be difficult to sell him on that one just because Kawhi and Paul George, they're just as injury prone as he is. The Lakers is interesting. I would guess my Lakers would be right there with Boston in the driver's seat to sign Chris. If I'm not mistaken, he still has property out there on the West Coast. And then obviously, to put this in perspective, LeBron loves playing with guys that he loves playing with. I know the D-Wade thing in Cleveland didn't work out, but D-Wade was pretty much a shell of himself at that point in his career. Chris is better than what D-Wade was at that point when LeBron and D-Wade got together second time around in Cleveland. Chris is for sure better than D-Wade. He's just as injury prone as D-Wade was, though, which would be concerning if the Lakers are thinking about making him their starting point guard next year. The Lakers could kind of work it the way Boston could, though. You could, in theory, start Austin Reeves a lot of the regular season if the Lakers bring back Austin and bring Chris off the bench, or, keep Chris as a starter and let Austin close games, depending on who's got it going. A guy like Chris, though, will be very valuable in the playoffs. The problem is it's tough getting him to the playoffs. I will say this as a diehard Lakers fan. When I think about the potential of signing Chris, I want him, but I can't lie to you guys. The similarities to that Lakers squad that signed Steve Nash and had Dwight on it alongside Kobe are very eerie. If you compare these big threes, if you go back to 2012 when the Lakers traded for Steve Nash, I would say LeBron's a tad bit better overall than what Kobe was at that point, despite LeBron being older. But Kobe was a better closer than LeBron. at that point. AD's better than what Dwight was at that point in his career. He just never could figure it out after Orlando. But Dwight's a little more durable. So I'll give AD the slight edge, but then I'll give Chris the slight edge over Steve Nash at that point in his career. Chris is better than what Nash was when he got traded to LA for sure. The Lakers probably will have a better squad overall. Coming off the Western Conference Finals, they're probably going to bring back Reeves and Rui. I will say, though, neither team won big or I thought would win big. And it's kind of eerie how they remind me of each other. I think this next year's squad, if the Lakers were to get Chris Paul, would be better. But very eerie how much they remind me of one another. I think the Lakers probably be the leader in the clubhouse. LeBron, LA. Yeah, I think Chris might be a Laker. I'm pretty confident. Unless he chooses winning. And that would be Boston to me, which is the better scenario. It's a lot of this is in Chris Paul's court. Again, a lot of this comes down to how much money will Chris play for. A lot of teams would love to have CP3, but when you incorporate the injuries, which pretty much just derailed the whole Phoenix thing, let's keep in mind this dude, Chris, was injured to close out the Suns' run against the Nuggets, which to me, I think the conversation is not being had enough. Phoenix played Denver, looking back in retrospect, as good as pretty much anybody. Miami's won a game in Denver. Nobody did that. Phoenix couldn't do that. But let's keep in mind the Suns won 2 games against the Nuggets, right? Without Chris Paul, they won both of those games. You look at the previous season, Chris Paul, though he was on the court, just fell apart physically at the end of that Dallas series. And then I thought he fell apart physically in the finals the year before that against the Bucks, which is how Milwaukee was able to win 4 straight. So the thing is, Chris is not able to be the starting point guard of the team the entire year and then try to go on a long postseason run. He's done by the playoffs pretty much physically. It will be up to him to write the close. Obviously, Chris Paul has been a staple for State Farm. I'm never telling somebody to take less money. You got your own bank account. You got your family. You got to do what you got to do. But if a scenario presented himself for him to play with a serious contender, up-and-coming Boston squad, or a L.A. Laker team that got to the conference finals, if it meant Chris needs to take less so the Lakers could keep Reeves and the Celtics could keep Smart, I think Chris needs to strongly consider his next move.